Christy, welcome back to my channel and welcome to day 6 of my 2023 holiday card series. Today I'm going to be making a card using Lawn Fawn's Christmas Before and Afters, Cheery Christmas, and a little bow from Hey There. So I've stamped the images I'll be using with Lawn Fawn Jet Black ink on Spectrum Noir Ultra Smooth Premium White cardstock, and I'll be coloring with my Copic markers. So normally I color mice brown, but of course they come in a variety of different colors, and today I decided to go with some white mice. So I'm using some very pale earth tones to give them kind of like a creamy look. I'm using E40, E41, and E42. Using the E42 first to lay in my shadows, and then blending out with the E41 for the midtone. And then a little bit of E40 for a highlight, and I'm also leaving some plain white cardstock for some extra highlight. On the belly area, I only used the E40 and let that fade into the white cardstock. And then I also colored in the mistletoe with E41 and E40, but I'm not going to end up using that image, so you can disregard that. But I'm going to add some rosy cheeks with R20 and R00. Also fill in their noses and the insides of their ears and give them some little pink feet, which I think is super cute. And then I'm going to move on to that Christmas tree, and I'm going to use G21, G24, and G28 for that. So I'm using the G28 up in the shadowed areas, so right underneath that star and then under the baubles and then under each section of the tree to add a little bit of depth there. And then once I have that laid in, I'm going to blend that out with the G24. And to be honest, you probably could have just used 2 markers there because there's not very much room for a highlight, but I did manage to leave a little sliver of white space in each of those sections, and I will fill all of that in with the G21 just to create a little bit of extra dynamics on the tree. So for this card, I wanted a very traditional Christmas color palette, so red and green and white basically, but I wanted that tree to stand out on its own, so I'm going to switch up my green tones now and use G14, G16, and G19 for anything else that I want to be green. And these greens have a little bit more of a bluish cast to them, so it will really look different from the tree, which is what I was going for. So I'm going to color in some of these gifts in the 2 rows. Some of the gifts are going to end up being covered up in the final card, but I'm just trying to make sure that the colors are represented throughout because I'm not sure which one I'm going to place where, so which gifts will be hidden. But I just wanted to have little pops of these traditional Christmas colors here and there. So I'm just making sure that no 2 images that are right next to each other are colored the same, just to spread that out a bit. And I will also do some of the ornaments on the tree with this green combo. I'm doing every 3rd ornament, so 1 green and then skip 2, and then green, skip 2, and trying to make sure that they don't all start at one end, just so it looks a little bit more continuous, like it's really wrapped around that tree. And then I did color in the leaves of the mistletoe with G16 and G14, but again, I'm not going to end up using that little part of the image. Then I'm going to switch to some reds, and I'm using R24, R29, and R39, which is my favorite Christmas red combo. And I will do the little bow for the girl mouse and the Santa hat for the boy mouse, just to make them look nice and festive, and again have those little pops of color. I'm also going to color in some more of the ornaments, and I'm doing the one that is immediately to the left of the green, just to keep it consistent throughout. I'll do the tree skirt with this combo, adding the shadow immediately under the tree and then the highlight around the edges where it would catch more light. And then I'm also going to do some more of the gifts and the ribbons, just again picking and choosing which ones I want to have where. and coloring those in with the R39 down at the bottom, and then the R29 for the mid-tone, and then a little bit of that R24 for a nice highlight. And I did forget to add some shading to that first bow on the bottom row, so I just went back and added that in. Then I'm going to do some little silver items or some white, but again, I didn't want it to be the same white as the mice. So I used T0, T1, and T3 to add a little shading to the Santa hat. I also did a silver star on top of the tree. I did the remaining little Christmas ornaments, and I will also do the gift bows and gift wrap, except for one because I didn't want to have two silver gifts right next to each other. So I skipped over that one, and then I'm going to use E43 and E44 for my tree trunk. And I'll also use that for my last gift, so it looks like craft wrapping paper. And then I'm going to trim these images out with their matching dies. Next, I wanted to use the Build a Snow Globe and die cut that out of some different cardstocks. I'm using white for the snow, fog for the outer part, and then I'll also cut the bottom out of some ground coffee. And then I have some metallic gold cardstock to do these little accent strips. And then I'm also going to grab some pattern paper from the Spiffier Speckles 6x6. I'm going to take the white with the gold fleck and then the darker green with the gold fleck. So I'm going to take the green and also die cut part of the snow globe from that. And I'll save the white for later on. But for now I'm going to start assembling my snow globe. So I'm going to take the piece that is cut out of the fog cardstock and layer that over the plain white background just to kind of build that up and have a little bit more stability to my pieces. Then I'm going to take the green Spiffier Speckles pattern paper and add that to the background for my sky. And then I'll use the white bottom Snowdrift for the ground. So I'm just fitting those in. Then I'm going to take the piece that I die cut from the ground coffee and trim down the outside edge so I just have the base, and I'll glue that down over top of the fog base to have it look maybe more like a wooden base there. And then I have those two gold strips. One is a little bit longer, that one goes on the bottom. So I'm just lining that up with the little marks that you can see that the die embosses into the cardstock. And then the shorter one goes at the top. So the snow globe is done. I will set that aside and work on some of the little decorations I want to add. I'm using the Magic Iris Holly Wreath add-on and die cutting the poinsettia out of some barn red and some guava cardstock, and then the leaves out of noble fir, and then the inner little part of the flower from that metallic gold. And then to assemble those, I'm going to start with the guava at the back, add a tiny little dot to the center, and then layer in one of the barn red pieces. Then I'll add another little dot of glue and use the gold metallic cardstock for the little stamen in the center. And then I'll take the noble fir leaf and just add a dot of glue to the center there and glue that to the back. And I'm just doing it on one of the sides. So there you can see how that is, and I'll assemble two more just like that. Next, I'm going to work on my sentiment, and for the first part of that, I am die cutting the Finley's ABCs out of some more barn red cardstock to spell out the word jolly. And then once I'm done with that, I will also die cut the same letters out of some gold metallic cardstock. For the rest of my sentiment, I'm going to heat emboss onto some noble fir cardstock. So I'm going to first treat that with my Rabbit Hole Designs powder tool, and then I will ink up my sentiment using some Versamark ink. And I like to press down very gently on that so the letters don't get squished. And then I will coat that in some Lawn Fawn white embossing powder. I just keep mine in a big tub to make it easier. And then I will bring my heat gun to that after heating it off to the side for about a minute. And I like to heat both the back and the front of the cardstock to eliminate some of the warping until it's all white and shiny. And then for the inside of my card, I am going to pop in a fog card base, and I will stamp the kissing mice from the Christmas before and afters in some jalapeno ink. And then the rest of my sentiment is from Cheery Christmas, and I'm going to do that in lobster ink. And I arranged the words to almost form a Christmas tree in like a little bit of a triangular pattern. So I've trimmed down that white fleck pattern paper with the outside in stitch rectangle stackables, and I'm going to glue that to my fog card base, which is A2 size, so 4 1/4 wide by 5 1/2 tall. And that's going to give me a little bit of a border of that fog cardstock, which will tie in nicely to the rim of the snow globe. I've added some foam tape to the back of that snow globe so that I can pop it up. So I'm just trying to center that toward the top of the card, make sure it's on there nice and straight, and then once I'm happy with it, I can press that down into place. Now I'm ready to adhere my images, and I'm going to start with those Christmas gifts and make a line of them right at the top of the snow. So they're going to overlap in the center, but that's going to end up being behind the Christmas tree, so you won't see that anyway. So I'll just place the Christmas tree down in front so that the star is almost to the top of the snow globe. And then down in front, I'm going to place my 2 mice. And this little scene here was kind of inspired by the song I Saw Mommy Kissing Santa Claus. That's kind of what was running through my head as I was designing the concept. So I'm going to add the little Santa Claus to the top of the boy mouse on the right. And then I will place the bow on the top of the head of the girl mouse, just so she looks nice and festive as well. And then I am ready to start working on my sentiment. So like I said, I also die cut those letters out of the gold metallic cardstock, and I'm going to use that as a drop shadow. I went back and forth about whether to use the gold on top or the red on top, but I ended up going with the red on top. I wanted the gold in the letters to be more of an accent, to have that really bright pop of red be the focus, but I think either way would have looked nice, so you could always just reverse it if you wanted to do something similar. And I did pull out my EK Success reverse tweezers to help me, but I don't know, for some reason I just really like to use my fingers for things. So I didn't end up using them all that much for this part, but I will use them when I go to attach the letters to the card in just a minute. But I'm just adding the smallest amount of glue that I can, just enough to get those letters to be secured together, and only in the places where they're going to overlap, because I really didn't want that glue to splooge out and ruin the metallic finish of that gold cardstock. So I was just very strategic with where I placed it, and then made sure to wipe up any excess with my fingers right away. The rest of the sentiment I trimmed down using one of the everyday sentiment banners, and I left space in between the letters when I was heat embossing them to give me room to trim those down into 2 separate strips. So I just did that with my cutter bee scissors, and then I lined up the word jolly where I wanted it to be on the card. And now is when I'm using those tweezers to pick those up and add the glue to the back, and then just lay them back down right where I had them. And I started in the middle. I always find it helpful to kind of start in the middle because it makes sure that I get my spacing right. So I worked toward the end, and then I'll go back and do the O and the J afterward. And if you really wanted to be precise, you could grab a ruler and use that to get your spacing absolutely perfect, or to just make sure that your letters are straight across at the bottom. But I tend to just eyeball things, and it usually turns out all right. So the word holiday I popped up on some foam tape, and I'm going to add that down toward the bottom right. And then the Hava, I used a little piece of foam tape and then some liquid glue for the part that is going to go on top of the base of the snow globe. And I did have a little trouble with the end kind of sticking to that cardstock, I think because the metallic cardstock is so slick. So I had to just press it down a couple of times until that glue was starting to dry and it kind of gripped a little bit better. But I'm going to take my poinsettias and arrange those where I want them to be. And then I will add a little bit of foam tape behind them because none of them, the base of them was not overlapping the snow globe, just some of the petals. So I wanted to have those on some foam tape so they would be on the same level as the snow globe. And I'm just turning them a little bit this way and that to make sure that the leaves are kind of pointing in different directions and not overlapping any of the words. And I actually ended up changing the one on the left one more time after the video, so you'll see that in the final photos. But like I said, I just wanted the leaves kind of facing in different directions, and it was a little too similar to the one on the lower right. But I got that last flower on there, and I really like how that just pulls the whole color palette together. And then I just fluffed up the petals to make them a little bit more dimensional, which I think is really nice. And then I needed to have a little bit of extra sparkle, so I brought in my favorite embellishment, which is Stardust Stickles, and added that to the star on the top, and then all of the silver ornaments on the trees, to the white part of the Santa hat, and to the red bow, and then all of the ribbons on the gifts. I thought about putting it on the letters as well, but I thought that might be too much with the gold metallic cardstock, so I decided to leave it. But it does have quite a bit of sparkle and shine between the stickles and the gold metallic cardstock and the flecks in that pattern paper. So there is another peek at the inside. I had so much fun creating this card for you guys, so I really hope that you enjoyed it. This video is going to be on the Lawn Fawn YouTube channel today as well, so if you'd like to watch it again, you can check it out over there. All of the products I use will be listed and linked in the description bar below in case you'd like to pick up anything for yourself. And if you'd like to keep watching, here is day 6 of the previous 2 years of holiday card series. You can click on either one to check them out. Thank you so much for spending your time with me today. I hope you had a good one, and I will see you soon in another video. Bye-bye.